So when we first introduced function, we also said that we would have got back to these parentheses here, and these parentheses are a way for a function to get some values from the outside world, so the from the outside of their block, and use those values inside the block. We can see this in action by declaring a function, and here I'll just call the function f, and we'll take a parameter called x. Now, when we declare a function, inside the parentheses goes a name, much like we declare a name using the let or const keyword. We don't need any keywords here because when we are declaring a function by the function keyword or also by the arrow keyword, in any case, when declaring a function and we put something in here, it is intended to be a name that we can use to access the value that has been passed from the outside world into the function. So now calling the function by typing the name followed by parentheses, we now need to provide a value for the x, and in this case I just want it to be whatever. And by calling the f function with the string whatever, I am assigning whatever to the parameter x that I called x inside the function declaration, and then x, whatever it is, will be passed to, in this case, console log, but in any case, I can use x inside my block. So if we now run the parameter.js using Node, we see that we get whatever printed out. And if I change this to whatever string, we get whatever string printed out because we are just calling console log on x, but x changes its value according to whatever I pass here. Now, a function can also take more than one parameter, and I can declare a function that just adds two number, and I call the two number a and b, and of course the function is called add. And what this function does is doing simply a plus b, but now once we call this function, really nothing is done because by calling add with 1 and 2, and I'm actually calling the function, and let me comment this out. So by calling this, we see that nothing, and I mean nothing, gets printed out. Well, that's of course because we need console log to print it out, so we can add a console log. But even with the console log, we get an undefined. Why is that? We are effectively adding something, but we need in some way to tell the outside world that a plus b has been calculated and I want to share with you the result. Well, to do this, there is another keyword that we can use inside block of a function, and the keyword is called return. And now that we added return, if we run the code, we get, in fact, the addition of the number 1 and 2, because 1 is being passed as a value to A, 2 is being passed as a value to B, and we are doing A plus B, so we are doing 1 plus 2, which is 3, of course. And by using return, all this function call returns the value of addition, so return 3. And by calling, of course, console log we then print 3. Keep in mind that when we pass a parameter to a function, in this case, when we call f with the argument of the string whatever, what we are doing is almost like declaring the parameter inside the block. So it's almost like writing let x and assigning to x the argument of the function. Of course, we cannot really do this inside the block since we don't know before calling the function what the value of x will be, and will be only determined when, of course, calling the function. So if we call the function f once again later in the code with another string, then we don't really know what to assign here to x. And since it is possible in JavaScript at least to declare a variable without really assigning to that variable value, and we saw in the variable video that now if we do not of course have an x in the parameter of the function declaration, we know that now x holds the value of undefined. The same happens if I call f of nothing, so I don't provide any argument to x. Now x holds the default value, and the default value in JavaScript is undefined. Now this is a behavior that you will mostly see only in JavaScript, and already in TypeScript you cannot do this, since once you say that this function needs a, a parameter to work properly, then if we just for a moment change the extension of this file to TS, which stands for TypeScript, we'll see that we get an error here, and the error says an argument for x was not provided. Now, getting back to JavaScript, in JavaScript instead, this is possible, and this is because in this specific case, x will now be undefined, and as always, we can ask node, and we can see that whatever, which is the string that we pass to f in the first call, gets printed successfully, but then we get an undefined, and this is due to the second call of f, and that's because now x holds the value of undefined, and in console log then we get an undefined, and we of course print an undefined, and then we have the value printed by the addition. Now it is possible to prevent this behavior by assigning a default value to a parameter of a function, and we do that by using the equal operator as if we were assigning a value to a normal variable, and I want in this case to assign the default value string to x in case nothing gets passed. And what this does is telling to JavaScript, look, if something it has been passed to f, then use that value. If, as in this case, there is no value, then you can use the default value for x. And by running the program, we see that we first print whatever, because this is the first call, and then we print default value even if we didn't really pass anything to f. And this is because now we have overridden the default value of a variable. You can imagine that if we do not write anything, is the same as writing x equal undefined. To get the idea a little bit more practical, we could define a function that I'll call my magic operation, and this operation should take a number and an option that by default is false, and then I say that if the should do magic parameter is true, and we can write, of course, is true by checking equality, but since we expect the should do magic parameter to be a boolean, we can simply left the should do magic. And I say that if that is true, I want to return the square of n, else, so we expect should do magic to be false, I want to return n plus 2. And by calling console log on my magic operation, of course calling it and providing a number, if we run the program, we see that should do magic is, oh, actually 2 was not the best choice. If we change it to 3, if we call the my magic operation with only a number, we get 5, which is of course 3 plus 2. But if we call the my magic operation and I explicitly say that the second argument, so the parameter should do magic, should be set to true, then running the program gives me 9. So actually this code was executed. So in this video we went through the process of passing values from the outside world inside a function through parameters, and we also saw how to assign default values to parameters so that we don't get undefined in case we do not pass any. If you learned something from this video, like it, and also consider to subscribe to the channel so that you can keep learning with me. Thank you for your time. We'll see you in another video. Bye bye.